With the restoration of the Peden bike, Ryder Hejdahl's accomplishments, and the number of cycling events held in our city this past summer, this has been Victoria's Year of the Bike. And so, before we get to our first inductee, we have a brief recap of how cycling became a popular sport here in Victoria. Bicycles, or velocipedes as they were originally named, first arrived in Victoria 140 years ago, but failed to attract many riders due to both their cost and the town's bumpy horse and buggy trails. Horses remained the main mode of travel until the 1880s, when cycling became a local summer amusement on the improved safety bicycles that used dirt paths to nearby Beacon Hill Park and other popular recreation spots. Only the wooden bridge across James Bay provided a smooth enough riding surface for races, so Daredevil bike racing began there in 1885, with a record 47-second dash across the bridge. That was followed on May Day with a challenge race at the Beacon Hill horse racing track. BC's original cycling club, the Island Wanderers, was formed in 1889, and by 1891, 40 owners of the Poor Man's Horse were organizing weekly rides around town. When the city purchased a steamroller, Jumbo, as it was nicknamed, was used each spring to turn muddy horse and buggy trails into compacted roadways. The favored club ride was a run up the Fort Street Hill, followed by coasting down to the new Jubilee Hospital grounds. Bike racing soon became part of the local sports scene, and in 1889 May Day celebrations featured 2 races at the Hills horse racing track. Challenge races with a $500 purse drew large crowds with plenty of side betting on their favorites. 1893 saw the opening of the BC Electric Railway Sports Park in Oak Bay, where the newly formed Victoria Wheelman's Club leased and maintained a new 1/3 mile cinder cycling track. Amateur and professional racers competed on the grand opening meet at the track and was soon after listed as the best in the Pacific Northwest. More than 2,000 spectators saw San Jose's Little Demon, Otto Ziegler, the past USA champion, set a 1-mile record of 2 minutes and 6 seconds. For 5 seasons, the Wheelman hosted monthly meets that soon saw young, promising local amateurs like Frank Penwill and Sewell Moody out-pedal the veterans. In 1901, semi-pro baseball picked up the Oak Bay Park lease at the same time as automobiles were being introduced, and Victoria bicycle racing popularity declined. In 1909, local bike shop operators revived racing with an 18-mile rugged road race that finished at the Sydney Sports Day festivities. The winning time, 2 minutes shy of 2 hours, and featured the Peden family name, as bike shop owners Tom and Bob Peden were amongst the top finishers. After World War I, cars became an established means of travel. Many city streets were paved, and bike road racing grew in popularity. 1919 saw the debut of the Vancouver Daily Province 10-mile road race in Stanley Park. Charlie Staples was Victoria's top rider. In 1922, he cut the time it took to race in from Victoria to Sydney to 51 minutes and also won the 1923 Province Cup race. But right on his rear wheel were a crop of up-and-coming young competitors like Jackson, Rush, Robbins, and Bill Peden. A group of cycling enthusiasts formed the BC Cycling Association, with George Robinson, the original owner of Robinson's Bike and Sporting Goods Store, being Victoria's rep and vice president. Robinson was also the driving force behind a newly named and expanding Victoria Cycling Club. An early racer named Moody, who went on to become a doctor, donated a cup for the annual 10-mile Good Friday event on Beacon Hill Park's Ring Road. Over the next few seasons, the BC Cycling Association built a full schedule of meets open to all card-holding members. Victoria added the Penwell 5-mile and Pendray 1-mile Dallas Road sprints as bike racing grew into a major sport. In 1927, the city acquired Royal Athletic Park and built a new grandstand and cinder racing track there. Hundreds of sports fans were at the opening cycling races, where they saw young Bill Peden collect 3 silver medals. The following season, Peden set 3 BC Track Championship records, plus a new Pacific Coast record in the 25-mile road race. That prompted a Vancouver sports writer to name the big red-haired rider Torchy. Peden set his sights on a Canadian title and scored a bullseye, winning the 1- and 5-mile championships, as well as a position on Canada's 1928 Olympic team going to Holland. But in the Netherlands, a string of bad luck, including 2 flat tires, ended the 103-mile nightmare. Peden stayed in Europe, racing to victories in France, Poland, and Britain to redeem himself. Torchy returned to Canada in time to sweep all the 1928 Canadian indoor track events, earning 5 titles while setting 4 new Canadian speed records. Here in Victoria, a young Glenn Robbins stepped into his pedals with a surprising victory in the 1929 Colonist Cup race. As a 16-year-old racing in the B class, Robbins clocked a time that was faster than the top A racer, the greatest victory in the Cup's history. In 1930, Victoria hosted the Canadian Track Racing Championships, and young Lou Rush, who was quickly becoming one of the best sprinters in the Northwest, captured the quarter-mile event. When the Great Depression hit, Torchy turned pro and quickly established himself in the rugged sport of six-day bike racing. Those events were mostly held in eastern arenas on steeply banked wooden tracks with two-man teams working in shifts. The race started at midnight Sunday and continued until midnight the following Saturday, covering a distance of more than 2,000 miles. During a 19-year career, Torchy teamed with many different racers, but his favorite partner was always his younger brother, Doug, who was another gifted multi-sport Victoria athlete. Torchy competed in 148 races and won 38 of them to become one of that period's highest-paid professional athletes. The 1930 Colonist Cup event featured more than 4 dozen entries in 5 classes, from a few 13-year-olds up to 18 top-class racers. Torchy was named to coach the 1932 Canadian Olympic cycling team, which featured Glenn Robbins and Lou Rush, who had won the province and Colonist Cup events. Stan Jackson was added later, making it 4 Victorians on the Canadian team in Los Angeles. Following the games, Rush and Jackson had short stints as pros on the 6-day circuit. Lou's cycling days ended with a serious crash. Jackson joined the BC Provincial Police Force. Glenn Robbins was part of a family of outstanding soccer-playing brothers and later became chief of the Saanich Fire Department. Meanwhile, capitalizing on the Olympic cycling publicity, the Victoria Cycling Club began soliciting donations, material, and labor to build a wooden track near Douglas and Topaz Streets. A reunion of veteran riders, included the Peden and Patrick brothers, opened the track in 1938. But then, with newcomers like Neil Duval and Gordie Bell setting a blazing pace, World War II once again interrupted bike racing, the cyclodrome became a casualty, and by war's end it was derelict and demolished. However, cycling had become a popular mode of travel during the gas-rationing war years, and afterwards new 3-speed bikes and balloon-tired imports filled the schoolyard bike racks. Racing them didn't make it back onto the sports pages for 2 decades, though, until Tom Morris relocated here. In 1969, the Scottish junior title winner helped Don Fawthorpe re-establish the Victoria Wheelers Cycling Club. Morris represented Canada at 2 Commonwealth and 2 Olympic Games between 1970 and 1976. Then in 1977, the Willock brothers, Bernie and Martin, bought new 10-speed racing bikes and began pacing each other on back roads of the Saanich Peninsula. Bernie Willock worked his way up onto our national time trial team and was the Canadian road racing champion in 1980. He was selected to the Olympic team that never got to compete because of the Moscow boycott. Brother Martin Willock began competitive cycling in 1983. With Bernie coaching him, he competed for Canada in the Pan Am Games the following year and raced in the 1984 Olympics. For the 1994 Commonwealth Games here in Victoria, a new concrete cycling oval was built at Juan de Fuca in Colwood. A 333-meter high-bank track hosted both men's and women's cycling events. The 94 Games also saw men's and women's team time trials staged on the Pat Bay Highway, along with road races that featured a route through Gordon Head. Cycling as a sport exploded after that. 101 years after Victoria's first cycling track opened, the sport had a first-class facility. Another legacy of the Commonwealth Games was the relocation here of the National Cycling Training Centre. One person who made the most of having the centre here was UVic student Alison Sidor. Alison won World Mountain Bike Championship gold medals in 1994, 95, and 96, plus a silver medal at the 1996 Olympics, and inspired a whole new generation of young women bike racers. Although he had already turned pro, the 94 Games also inspired another well-known local bike racer, and he is our first inductee of 2011.